Good afternoon. My name is Jim, and I live in sunny San Diego. And I'm a retired professional photographer. I worked for the Golden State Warriors. I've worked for different universities over the years. And I had a photo finishing lab in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And after my wife passed away, I moved to California. Now, today, we're going to be talking about the eclipse that is coming to the United States on April 8th, 2024. And we can ask some questions later if any of you have been fortunate enough to see an eclipse. Now, what's really important is the address of the website that goes over in detail is eclipse2024.org. That's ECLIPSE 2024.org. Now, this is a very rare, it's not a rare occurrence to have an eclipse, but it is a very rare occurrence to have one over the United States. Now, this eclipse is going to come up through Mexico, transverse the United States, and go up into Canada. So it's actually going to go over 3 countries. Now, I went to the one in August 2017 that went over the United States, and I stayed with a lovely evergreen couple in Boise, Idaho. Now, I arrived 3 days early and then left the day after because I wanted to get a picture so that I could take something like this. So this takes a lot of planning before it happens because it's a very short event. So you need to have your ducks in a row. So where I went to a small town called Cambridge, Idaho. And I'm going to go over some information to help you with that. Boise was not in the path of totality. It was about 70%. So I needed to find a place that I could watch it. So this eclipse progressed through the total eclipse. The whole event takes about 2.5 hours from start to finish, from the very first little bit that comes out till the end. Now, the amazing thing about this eclipse is the duration of totality. When the new moon is directly in front of the sun, this is a new moon when you have an eclipse of the sun. The maximum totality at any time is about 7 minutes. The one I went to was 2 minutes, 35 seconds. This eclipse in some places will be over 4.5 minutes, which makes this event remarkable. Also, all motels were filled up months in advance, and I'm sure that's going to be true here because I booked mine in February and it wasn't until August. And when I went to the towns where these people were migrating in to see this, people were charging $50 to park in a driveway. If you had a motor home, you were paying a lot of money. So the first thing you decide to do is where you want to go, and then make your plans, maybe in the middle of 2023. I know I'm going to repeat this often, but it's very important. You never look at the eclipse with the naked eye. You must always wear protective eye covering, and I will explain that later. When the eclipse is in its total stage, then you can remove your glasses. So now I'm going to start showing, Kathleen's going to start showing the photographs. I took a picture every 15 minutes to get these different phases. Could Kathleen start with the first picture?
All right.
Okay. Now, like I said, when the eclipse happens, this is a new moon. You don't see the new moon in the daytime, but the sky was blue. I did this effect to make that picture I wanted. Actually, the sky is blue. Now, up at around 1 to 3 o'clock, that is a circle. That's part of the moon that's going to transverse across the surface of the sun. Next picture. That's a little bit bigger. That's kind of granulated. This is a little bit bigger. Next picture. Okay, now you can see this, barely can see the moon. Next picture. Now it's almost like a crescent. You can see the moon is slowly moving across and blocking out the sun. Next picture. This is about the last one you're going to get before the total eclipse. It's just a little sliver of the sun. Now, wait for it. Now, next one. There. That is the total eclipse right there. That's what you want to see. Now the sky will be black, and the moon now blocks the entire, they're in perfect alignment. So the moon is right in front of the sun, and the corona is around the sun, and there's little red dots. Those are like flares. And the scientists travel all over the world to search for these eclipses because they gain a lot of valuable information when the eclipse is total like that. All right, now what we're going to talk about, what causes an eclipse? And it has to be a rare event. And I'm always, amazed because the conditions have to be just right. And, it's amazing how much space is out in space that this can ever happen because it's infinite, but yet it can happen. So now we're going to talk about, this is the first picture that shows the sun, the moon, and the earth. And when the sun goes onto the moon, it casts a shadow out into space. And the dark part of the shadow where you're going to see a total eclipse is called the umbra. And the lighter part is called the penumbra. And the penumbra, you'll get a partial eclipse. The umbra, you get a total eclipse. Okay, next picture. There, now that shows it a little bit better. The sun, and because that moon is a sphere, the shadow goes out in a cone shape. When that umbra just touches the surface, that's where you're going to get the total eclipse. If you are in that gray area, that's where you'll get a partial eclipse. When I stayed in Boise that year, they were about 70% total. So it'd be like one of those pictures I showed you where just a little piece was taken out. So if you want to see the total eclipse, you have to be in the path of totality. And I'm going to go over that with you. Now, the sun, when it goes across, it travels about 2,000 miles an hour. And the width of totality is about 170 miles. And so every eclipse has a sunrise and a sunset. On this eclipse, it rose over Oregon. So the sunrise was in Oregon. The sunset was off the coast of Georgia. Now I'm going to show you some diagrams that show how this alignment has to happen. Next picture. Now this is the only part of the whole talk that's going to be a little technical. But all the planets, everything in the solar system, they travel in orbits called ellipses, which means it's slightly a flattened circle. If all the planets were in circles, we would never have this event. So you can see here, the orbit of the Earth is in orange, and it's 5 degrees below the orbit of the moon. The moon is in purple, but every so often they crisscross and they meet, and this is called a node. And a node is where the moon and the sun and the earth are in perfect alignment. And that's when you have the total eclipse. But there's got to be a lot of other things that have to happen. It can't just be there. It has to be there in a certain way. Okay. So the moon, as you probably know, is close to the earth part of the year, which is called perigee. It is away from the earth other times, which is called apogee. And the range is about 225,000 miles to roughly 252,000 miles. What is amazing about this eclipse and why it is so long in duration is because the moon is 1 day past its perigee, which means it's almost as big as it can get. So you figure when the moon is big, it covers the sun. When it's far away, you get an annular eclipse. I'm going to go over that with you in a minute. So you have either an annular eclipse or total eclipse. Then when the moon comes around to the other side, we get a lunar eclipse. Now the lunar eclipse, you don't have to wear any safety glasses. But because the earth is so much bigger than the moon, the lunar eclipse lasts much longer, where a solar eclipse can only be 7 minutes. A lunar eclipse can be an hour. It can be quite a long time. And it gets sort of like a red glow, kind of an orangey red glow. And that would be the eclipse, the lunar eclipse. Okay, now next we're going to talk about is what is the difference between an annular eclipse and a total eclipse. An annular eclipse always happens when the moon is too far away and it doesn't block this. Now, I took this picture. This is an annular eclipse. It never got dark because the sun is still there. So if you were walking down the street, you'd never know what happened. So this happened in 2014 in Zion, Utah. And I went to Zion, I was there, and then up on the hill, the Sky and Telescope, which is the big national organization, they had their trucks and their vans and telescopes, everything. And they were about maybe 100 yards from where I was up on a hill. And they would say, when is first contact? The first little dip comes out. And then as it goes across, and then it makes this effect. And I think it's spectacular. I mean, I think it's just a spectacular event. Not like the total because it doesn't get dark. But this is a picture I took at Zion for that. And then we're going to show the annular eclipse path where this is going to happen. This is going to be in April. I'm sorry, October 14th, 2023. We're going to show this first, I guess. Okay. So what you have is you have the sun, the moon, the earth. Now, when the umbra, the darkest part of the shadow, touches the earth, you get a total eclipse. But when the moon is too far away, it's too small, the umbra misses the earth. So you get an annular eclipse. Those are the two types. Okay, next slide. I'll show it a little bit closer up. So here on the top, the umbra touches the earth, you get a total eclipse. When it misses the earth, you get an annular eclipse. Okay, next picture. And this is the map of where the annular eclipse is going to happen, October 14th, 2023. Again, Texas is kind of fortunate. So West Texas, around El Paso and that area, the only major city it goes over is Albuquerque, and it goes right over it. Las Vegas is out of the path, but Albuquerque, and you're going to be fortunate enough to have that happen. So you're going to be able to see that.
Yeah. Yep. Will you be there in October?
October 14th, 2023. Now we're gonna put all this together. So now we're going to show you the map. I have like 3 maps of the path that this eclipse is going to take. We'll start with that. Okay, solar path. This is the path the is going to travel. Okay, next slide.
Hold on. There we go.
Okay, that's a world map. It shows a lot of the time it's out over the ocean. That's okay. Next. Next. Now there's the path of the United States. We have a bigger one of that, don't we?
That one?
Do you have a bigger map of that?
I have one of Arkansas.
No, go back to the one before. Go back to the one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now you can see from this map that there's not a lot of people are going to be able to see this. The whole Northwest is out of luck. South, north, southeast, Florida, Georgia, all those states are out of luck. So I'm going to go over each state and I'm going to tell you which ones are probably the best. Okay, starting with Texas. Texas has an excellent shot. Oklahoma, just a little bit in the southeast. Arkansas, right over Arkansas. The southeast corner of Missouri. Illinois is not bad. Indiana is very good. Ohio is very good. Pennsylvania, up around the Lake Erie, Niagara Falls area. New York in the northern part is very good. Maine is excellent. And then it starts to go up into Canada, Newfoundland, and some areas up there. So I'm suggesting, the real bad thing that happens during an eclipse, if it rains. If it rains, it's still going to be there. We won't be able to see it. So when I was in Idaho, I didn't worry about that much because it's pretty much blue sky. So my suggestion would be, because this is going to be in April, and you might want to check some weather reports from the last year and see how much rainfall they get in April, and maybe try to find a state here that's fairly dry. because you don't wipe out rain, you're done. You're really done. Okay, so now I'm going to put this all together for us. We're going to show you exactly how you do this thing. I worked on this for about 6 months, and I'm condensing it in 45 minutes so you can understand this. Okay, show the map of Arkansas. I'll show you how to do this. Okay, no.
Oh, Jim,
Okay.
you want to explain like the 3 lines before we get to the map without the 3 lines?
Well, this is the solar eclipse path. And you see there is a shaded area. This is the path that the sun travels and the moon travels in conjunction. This area, and then you see there's a little red line in the center. That's the total path that has the maximum time of the eclipse. The band is that width. I told you it's about 170 miles wide, and it's traveling at about 2,000 miles an hour. The whole event from Mexico to Canada is only a couple hours. It goes across Texas in 4 minutes. Very, very fast. Okay, now we'll show the map of Arkansas. I chose it because it has a great idea. I mean, really a wide band. Okay, so now what you want to do, you want to go to a AAA, you want to get a map of the state you decide to go to. So in this case, you get a map of Arkansas. Now it's a little bit of fudging here, but you want to try with your map. You're going to have a map with the little roads and things. So you see Russellville, you go a little bit below that, you put a little dot. Down here at the bottom, you go to this little county, you put a dot. And up at the top, you find that county, you do a dot. And then you draw a line to connect those dots. Then you do the same thing on the borders. Texarkana is right on the dot. You have the map of Arkansas, and there's a gray area, darker area down through the middle. That is the path of the eclipse. The center line is in the center, and then the band is about 170 miles wide. What you need to do is get the map of the state you're going to be at and try to figure out where the little counties are, and best you can draw those 3 lines. The middle is a little bit darker, and then the 2 lines. What you have to remember is the maximum time that you want to go to the eclipse is always as close as you can get to that center line. Everywhere in that shaded area will be a total eclipse. But if you're in the very center, like around Dallas, it might be 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Well, not Dallas, I'm sorry, upstate Arkansas. But if you're down outside, like say, like Little Rock, it might only be 2.5 minutes. So the object is get the closest you can to that line on the map that you choose, because that's where the maximum totality is going to be on that line. And one more suggestion, when you go to the website, that website I told you about, eclipse2024.org, they're going to have the 2023 annular, and they're going to have the total. So you click on total. Then down at the bottom, it'll ask you state. You click the state you want. Let's say you click Texas. Then you can pick the city you want to go to. Let's say Sulphur Springs or wherever you want to go. But you want to pick a town that doesn't have skyscrapers and honking horns. You want to have somewhere out in the country, like with a windmill or cows or whatever. You want to be out in the country somewhere. And then it's going to tell you, after you put all that data, it will tell you when it starts, when it ends, how long it is. So you're going to have the opportunity to pick some place that's going to be out in the country. And that's what you're going to try to do. You're going to find something that's, when I went to Cambridge, and Cambridge was about 80 miles towards Oregon from where I was staying with the Evergreeners. And so what I did was I went 3 days early, and I left the next day. The eclipse was on a Tuesday. I went out on Saturday. I left on Monday. So I drove around the countryside trying to find a place that was off the beaten trail. So as I was driving, I went by this guy. He was sitting out in his yard there, and I asked him if I could talk to him for a bit, and he said, sure. So this was Sunday, 2 days before. So he had about 1,000 acres. And so I said, I would like to take some pictures here if you don't mind. And he said, sure. He said, up at the top of that hill there, my fence takes a little dog leg for whatever reason. It went left and right, and it was like little space. So I pulled my car, my rental car up in there, and I go, this is perfect. I'm going to be off the road. I'll be able to, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. One car went by the whole time. And so that was exactly what I did. So when you go someplace, you got to get permission and you to be able to go on somebody's property if that's what you're going to do. So I didn't want to drive. I was about an hour and a half from Boise. So what I did was the day before I went to Cambridge, I went to the high school, to the principal, superintendent actually. And I said, do you mind if I stay in your parking lot overnight? And he said, no, that's no problem. You can come overnight, because the eclipse was starting at 10 o'clock and I didn't want to have to drive all that distance. I couldn't have done it. So I stayed the night before. My little Evergreeners, they gave me a fold-up chair. They gave me a cooler with pop and water in it. And they went beyond the call. They were amazing. So now what we're going to talk about is safety equipment. Okay, show the first picture that has the little piece of Mylar and the glasses.
Okay.
You got that up?
Yes.
You got it? Okay. So when I went, and all the eclipses in the past, it's so important. You got to protect yourself. But back when I went, they had these little flimsy cardboard with the glass. Now you can see they have I looked at these. I got these at Home Depot. I looked at them. They're regular glasses, but they have arc welding in the middle. They're black. You can't see through them at all. So that's what you want to get, the best you can get. Now that little piece of Mylar is about 8 by 10. So what you want to do, you want to cut a little square out of that. And on the back of your phone, whether you have one lens or two lenses or three lenses, you have to put a piece of that over the front, to block those lenses completely, and tape it down the whole way around. So now you can look through it. You can see the sun and you can see the phases with your iPhone. And Apple is not as good as Samsung. Apple's camera is not really so great. Show that next slide of that with the little goggles. There's a little goggles with a little elastic across the back. And you can also use that type of protection. And then this crazy picture I found on Amazon of a zoom lens that goes on an iPhone. I don't know, but I was shooting with 250 millimeters with a 2x converter. So I was shooting 500 millimeters with a one-stop reduction. But so you have plenty of time. Go to a camera store, see what kind of lenses they have, see what kind of adapters you can get to put on your phone. But what you got to remember is when the eclipse is total, only when it's total, you can take your a look at it right with your eyes, because you are now safe. But you want to allow a little bit of time before and after, because even a little sliver, you're toast. Your eyes are toast. So just give it, if it says it's going to be total at say 2 o'clock, give it a couple more seconds, a few more seconds, and then take them off. In the same way, when it ends at 4, say, I better be safe. I think I better go at 350 just to be sure. So you're protected at all times. You want to make sure that you won't feel anything till the next morning. You wake up, you don't see anything, but then it's too late. And then the next thing I want to talk about is, how do we take this picture? Well, it's pretty simple with an iPhone. You put the protection on it, you take pictures, and then you can take it off when it's total, and then you're done. With a 35 millimeter camera, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people out there are going to be having 35 millimeter cameras, but I will be brief and I'll explain it to you. When you have a 35 millimeter camera, there you have options how you want to set your camera. You have a program mode, which means that you basically hold the camera up. It does all the work, and you really can't take credit for that picture. The camera can. The next mode is aperture preferred. You select the aperture, camera picks shutter, does everything. Then you pick shutter preferred, which means, let's say you want to stop action of fast motorcycle or something like that. You would pick shutters preferred, and it will select the aperture. The one you need to do for taking this picture is manual mode. You put it on M. That means you're going to control aperture, shutter, everything. So you put your camera on on manual mode. You set the ASA at 200, and you put your aperture on f11. Now that gives you the control to control only the shutter speed. So what I did, I took 3 pictures every 15 minutes. I took like 1,000, 750, 500, 1,000, 750, 500, sat back down. Then when it got a little bit darker, I went down to a 250, 125th. And then when it was black with just the total effect, I was down to about a 30th and a 15th and maybe an 8th to make sure. And then I looked at my camera on the back. I go, 1/8 of a second, perfect. So when you put your thing up, you put your tripod up, you put your camera on your tripod, you put your cable release on your, so nothing is moving at all. And you notice when you filter, you expose your camera on the top, you have like an infinity. But sometimes, even though the moon is obviously an infinity, sometimes you got to tweak it just a little bit because you want that crystal clear. And you can practice a little bit with your filter on, taking a picture of the sun before the eclipse happens, so you can get it really sharp and try to get it in the center of your frame every time. And every time they're moving very fast, but you not that fast, but you keep moving it. Next picture, center it again, take your bracket, they call it bracketing, bracket your exposure and go like that. And finally, I'm going to tell you why I went earlier. I went days earlier because I learned when I was at the annular eclipse that it's dark. You have your glasses on. You can't get a picture of the foreground. Not that I wanted one where I was. It was in the middle of a field. So what you want to do is you want to find a place. If you want to take the picture like I did. Okay, so show them that picture within the daylight of the barn and the tree. You have that up there?
Oh, that's what's on.
Okay, all right. So you see this picture. You have a barn. You have a tree. You have a horse under the tree. And you have a fence that's going up for perspective. So that's the perfect picture. That's what I wanted to put on the bottom of my picture. And you notice across the top, there's a lot of sky. I wanted to put that sequence across the top. Now you got to remember the bottom picture was, I took it in bright sunlight, but it would look stupid if that bottom picture was bright when it was a total eclipse. It wouldn't work. So what I did was I darkened the bottom, photoshopped the top with the total in the middle, and then I reversed each one. So the first one on the left is identical to the one on the right, the second, and so on. Show them my total picture now, the picture of my total eclipse.
You know, I created an extra slide, Jim, where it shows the picture in the daylight and it shows your finished one together.
That's right. Okay, show them the dark one now. Show them the finished picture.
Yeah, they're both up at the same time.
Okay, so you can see the pictures are identical. The bottom of the picture is identical with the barn, the fence, the little horse under the tree. I found that place by accident. Sometimes as a photographer, your best pictures are taken by accident. I mean, I don't know how I found that. It just, God said, here's a good place to go. And that's where I went. So it worked out perfect. And I've sold thousands of those. I've sold a lot of those pictures. And so that's what you want to do. And so I was talking to Kathleen. I said, some places might be good. Say like, you can go to any state. You can start taking them now if you like. It doesn't matter. But what I was thinking was like, let's say St. Louis, the arch. Wouldn't that be beautiful if you took a picture of that arch that kind of glows at night and then put that across that middle? I mean, that would be impressive. Or you could go up to Lake Erie, Niagara Falls, and you could take pictures of Niagara Falls, darken that down, and then have that across the top. That would be stunning. I saw some in Idaho where it actually went over the Tetons, and I saw some pictures of people that took the Teton Mountains at the bottom, Snake River, beautiful, and then that across the top. I mean, it's unlimited what you can do. I mean, the thing is, you go home, you got all your images, you put them onto a flash drive, you edit them, and you throw out the ones you don't want and do what you want. You can do that, I think, with your iPhone, because you can take the pictures that you have, the different sequence, and then save them and then edit them and then take them to a lab or somewhere that can do Photoshop, or unless you're good at Photoshop, and you can create pretty much anything you want. You really can. So that's all I have. That's it.
Okay.
That's a really stunning picture, Jim, with the
Oh,
barn.
thank you.
Yeah, really nice.
A thing was, because I'm a member of the Canon Professional Club, and they lend me equipment, they lend me different things, and I worked on doing that for about 6 months. I started in about March,
Yeah.
and you got to get your reservation, you got to get everything, but you have to have everything done because you're talking.
Right.
I was talking 2.5 minutes.
Right.
You're talking.
You don't have
maybe
time
4
to do it.
minutes. So
you don't have
you
time.
got to
do
have it
that.
right, or you can't do it the next day.
That's right.
That you have to have it right. Exactly.
Mhm.
So, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, be prepared for that super minute that's going to happen. that
The what?
looks like it was just pure luck, but it's never pure luck. It's just good planning. Well, it's good luck, but it's good planning.
I knew the eclipse was in August, was on a Tuesday. And what I did is I talked to Canon, and they're the one that told me to do the settings. 90% of people that take pictures take them on automatic. The problem with that is you didn't take the picture. If you ask 100 people, when you put a camera on automatic, what is the camera's only function? Can anybody answer that question? What does the camera do? Tell me. Does it care if you take a picture and you cut the head off? Does it care if you take a nice portrait, there's a garbage can in the back? Nope. Does not care. It only cares about exposure. It wants neutral gray. That's all. It's camera's only job is to get neutral gray. And if the person's head's cut off, but the flesh tone was neutral gray, cool. Didn't care. You want to take control of the camera. You want to take the picture. You want to be in control. Put it on manual, for God's sake, and control the picture. You want to control the speed, set your shutter and set the aperture. If you want depth of field, check the aperture. F2 would be low, F11 would be high depth of field. And you can do all that. I've never taken a picture on automatic, I don't think, in my life in 40 years, probably not. I want to say I want to take it. I want to take that picture.
Jim?
Yes.
So most of us are going to be using our phones. And can you give some suggestions? Like, I'm going to go to my phone right now and look at the camera. I mean, I open the camera.
Oh, your iPhone, you mean?
Well, I have a Samsung, but yes, a cell phone, mobile phone.
Yeah, a Samsung is a good choice because they have a lot more creativity as far as photographs go. And I was looking at lenses, and Amazon had that one. Or you could go to your local a good camera store and see what kind of devices they have. And of course, you're going to have a little peewee tripod. You don't need a big mammoth. A nice tripod, and then you mount the camera, and then you hit the button and you take the pictures. And with an iPhone, you're going to be able to look at the back and say, "Oh, that's a little bit too bright. Maybe I need to, that little arrow on your phone. You can drag that down and make it a little bit darker." I think my opinion would be with an iPhone, you're going to get better pictures as there's more of the moon covering, like a little disc. When that's full sun, that's pretty tough. That you can't, even with the thing on the front, it's kind of tough to take. But it can be done. But you're going to get some good ones when it's total. You'll get some great shots when it's the total black. You will get some great shots of that with that filter off. Of course, you will get some good pictures. I got a couple with my iPhone. Yeah.
Okay, so Jim, like something really simple. I'm assuming other people might be at my level here. Do you want it, you kind of have like a symbol for like a up close or one that's more of a distance? You want the distant setting, I suppose. And then there's an option to have a night setting. Have you heard of that?
No, I'll tell you what you can do. You can buy this Mylar and put this stuff on your camera on your phone, and then take some pictures of the sun, see how they come out. I mean, you get suns up every day. Take some at sunset. Take some pictures of the moon when the moon goes up at night, when it's a full moon, like in December, January, when the moon comes full, takes them. The only difference between an amateur photographer and a professional photographer, we practice. I've taken every possible situation that exists, groups, weddings, portraits, seniors. I've taken all pictures. And so it's just a matter of having experience. But you can do the same thing. Take notes, write it down. I had a tablet. I go, okay, I took this at so-and-so. I took this at a 60th. I took this. I write them all down. Then I get them back. You know, in the old days, you had film. You had to go back through it and write it down. But now we can see the picture as soon as we take it. It's right there. And then we know what we did right and what we did wrong. And we know it's practice. Practice is all it is. A lot of practice. So I've taken pictures for years.
So I have an evergreener here with me, and Claire actually showed me some pictures she took of the 2017.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, and they're all in shades of gray, right? Yeah. And they actually look pretty good. But she didn't use a filter. And so she's asking, could you explain what the filter, how it either protects or how the pictures are different or both of those?
Okay, so where was she in the path of totality?
Yes.
What state was she in? Oregon?
Waverly, Missouri.
Missouri. Okay, that was a good shot. Okay. Okay, then she used an iPhone.
Yes.
All right, so you have all your images now on your iPhone, right?
Yes.
And what is your intent? What do you want as the finished product?
Oh, you know what? She was never going to do a composition picture. I think she just wanted to record the event. And they had a party, and they you know, had made T-shirts, and you know, actually, you can hold that up to the camera right here. I can't see.
It. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it there.
See, that's
up a little bit higher. Raise it up a little bit higher. There. Yeah, I saw it. I see it. Yes. Well, because you got some flare there, what you want to do, you want to edit on the phone, on the picture. You want to hit edit, and then you want to go those two little dots at the bottom, and you want to scroll and make it darker, a little more contrast. And you can slide your when you edit the picture, pull up the picture, then hit edit, and then go through your brightness, contrast, everything, shadows, highlights. Well, yours is all shadows, but you can take that picture and then put a couple more together like a collage, and then take a picture of that. Because it's black, you're not going to see the lines. So maybe put like 3 together, take a composite picture, take a picture of that. Now you have some variety. It's a possibility.
Well, and she was just touching some options, and like having a portion of the, you know, where you could see the eclipse. And the iPhone had choices, and one was like to make it warm, which then made it from looking like black and white to an orange, the orange sun. I mean, it was
so orange. Until it's total, the sun will be orange, like those pictures I showed you, but the sky was black because I messed around with it. The sky, when you're taking the eclipse, the sky is blue sky with the moon coming across. It's a blue sky until it's black. They're all blue sky, but I didn't want blue sky. I wanted black sky, something different.
Okay.
You know, you could take a video. You know, you could take a video of it, but you'd have to start and stop it as a next phase. Stop it, and then if you had 2 phones, you could take one of the first contact with a video, stop it, go a little bit longer, do it again, and then do it again, and do it again. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. That is absolutely perfect. That's perfect. And you might want to blacken that just a little bit darker, make it a little bit darker so you get a more defined moon rather than a little bit of a flare. Try to get it like mine was like a pure circle. So darken that picture a little bit, and I think you got a winner there. I really do.
Well, you know, it brings up a really good point that it could be in all of our best interest to get to know the cameras better on our phones.
Hey, ask that lady if she lives in Missouri. Does that lady live in Missouri?
No, it's Claire, and she does not. She lives in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
If there's any, I mean, that would really be good when you was in Missouri, because you could have taken a picture of the arch when it's lit up and then put that little sucker right in the middle. What a picture that would be. Whew. No, I'm not kidding. If you have anything really cool in Wisconsin, like waterfalls or something spectacular, just put that at the top of the picture. Take your picture, make a print of it, take the other picture, take a picture of it, and then paste them together and just take a picture. And now you got a collage of that picture. That would be a great idea.
So why don't you share? So Claire was just saying, like, well, she doesn't know Photoshop or have the program. So if you want to do something like that, what's your next step?
You can go to like a printer. Like there's a printer in town. They charge about $10 an hour to Photoshop anything you want. You just give them the save it. See, I'm so used to working with a 35. You give them a flash drive with all your pictures on it. You just give it to them I did that one for like $20. I just had a flash drive with all the sequence. I told them what I wanted. Here's the picture on the bottom. I went dark in, and they did. I think it cost me $30 to make. Now I have a flash drive of that finished image on my flash drive. Now the one in Idaho, one in Utah, the annular, I did that one myself. But that's what I was saying. When I did the one in Utah, that gave me the experience I needed to realize that you need a bottom shot. You need something, because otherwise it's just an annular. So that one I did with a little bit of white, a little bit of green. I have it on my wall. I just love that picture. Something about the annular is kind of cool. You know,
it really is. It is. Well, let's see. Let me go to the next slide. I made a couple of slides, and then we can, I'll stop the screen share, and then we can, if people have questions, they can ask you.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought I needed to show people. So this one in 2024, I went and I just looked on the Evergreen Map and sort of eyed it. I didn't, do it specific, by the millimeter. But we have tons of evergreen people right across this path. I mean, it's really, literally, there are hundreds of members along this path.
That's amazing right there, because only about 10% of the United States is even in this path. Not even maybe 10%.
Yeah.
But Texas, a lot of people in Texas, I'm sure. Arkansas, Maine, Illinois.
Lots in that part of Arkansas.
That's a great, Arkansas is a great one. But like I said, okay, so here's the thing. What you do, you go to eclipse2024.org, okay? It's going to bring up like about 6, like kind of a burgundy colored rectangles. There's 2, 2, and 2. One talks about safety glasses, wearing safety. One talks about the lunar eclipse. And then one of the boxes says Eclipse 2024. You click on that. You scroll down at the bottom, and it says states. So
did we lose you?
I don't hear.
Oh, now we do. Yeah, we are.
Okay. I got a phone call my therapist. The reason it's not like I don't want to be on the picture. You there, Kathleen?
Yes.
You there?
Yes.
Wait a minute, unmute.
No, now you mute. Yes. I am here.
Hello?
Oh, no. Well, you know what, Jim, I'm going to go to the next picture and explain while you try to figure this out. Okay.
You there now? There.
Yes.
Hello?
Uh-huh. Okay, so Jim, we're going to move to the next picture that shows the October 14th, 2023 eclipse path that goes from south, well, from like Texas to the west through Oregon. And I put some stars. We don't have as many people just because, you know, there aren't many people in Nevada.
There's not too many. But you know, I didn't want, it wasn't that I didn't care about my picture. The problem I just had was arthroscopic shoulder surgery, which is not pretty. And my arm's in a sling. It doesn't look so, but I'm doing my therapy. I'm doing my therapy all the time. And it's getting better. It is getting better.
Good.
But,
Glad to hear that.
But just all you have to do, I mean, I have a passion for photography. When I first started, I was in college in Pitt, and I was taking pictures. My dear sweet wife that passed away, she would run the store. I'd do the store. I'd get models. I'd go out and take waterfalls. And I wrote everything down because it was film. I had a big RB 67, a 2 1/4, 2 3/4 square. Plus I had a Canon 35 millimeter. And I would just go out and shoot, write it down, go home, look at it and say, oh, this is the one I want. But you know, it just, I did, from 75 to about 80, I had 2 high schools. I did about 400 seniors over the summer. Guys would come in suit, you know, shirt, nice tie and shorts on the bottom. You're only going to take them from the waist. That didn't matter. But, you know, I just take all these senior pictures, and I just done weddings, portraits, whatever. And you just, every picture you take is always going to get better. Every time you take a picture, you want to strive. I can give you some tips, even about on a camera, on an iPhone. They're vertical, right? They're a lot higher than they are wide, right? So keep that in mind. It's the same as a 35. It's 1 to 1.5. It's about 1 inch by 1.5 inches. So what you want to do when you look at your picture, you want to think in your mind, is this like a fence or is this a telephone pole? If it's a long, thin, you want to shoot it upright. If it's a group of 4 or 5 people, you always want to turn your phone horizontal, because if you shoot it vertical, you got to get back. The trick to taking a good picture is fill the frame. Get the frame as tight as you can get it, because the more you blow it up, the more it pixelates and you can get some fuzziness. So remember that. An individual portrait, you can use that portrait mode. Nothing is more better in a picture than having the subject in focus and the background out of focus. It's called depth of field. And you can do it on an iPhone because they have the portrait mode. Practice. Take a picture of a vase with some flowers in it. Take it regular and then take it portrait mode. You'll see the background's all out of focus. But what does that do? It draws your eye to the person. You look at a football game, they have these humongous lenses. The quarterback's crystal clear. The fans are all out of focus. But that's why it draws your eye. Try to be creative with a camera. Try to be creative. Take some verticals. Don't have horizontalitis. Take some verticals, for God's sake. You know, fill the frame. That's my tip. Fill the frame. Always.
Okay. You know what? It is 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so, Jim, thank you very much for the program. I am going to spend some time on my camera between now and 2024, and I hope to be able to take some better pictures.
Tell that lady that held her camera up, those were some really good pictures, and I think she can do something with those. Did she have any with a partial moon, a partial sun?
Probably.
Did you have a filter on your camera? I guess you did.
No, she didn't.
Ouch. Ouch.
And
I hope it's okay.
It's the same camera? Well,
you got lucky.
Yeah, and you didn't have to buy the new phone the next day.
Well, if you just take a quick snapshot, it's probably going to be okay if you take a quick snapshot. But without a filter on, you're not going to see that definition. If you point an iPhone with no thing on back, you won't even see the eclipses happening. You need to get something dark so you can see the little pieces taken out. I would think.
Oh, interesting. Huh,
If it's like the
okay.
eclipse that like the one I took, the annular in Utah, if I did not have glasses on or protection on my camera, you would never have known it happened. Person walking down the street didn't have any, it never got dark. It never got dark because the sun was still about 15% visible. So if you did not know the eclipse was happening, you would have never known it, ever. You never would have known it.
Okay, that makes
And a total
sense.
eclipse the same way. You won't know what's happening until you put the filters on. But then when it's total, then you see it exactly. Well, I'm gonna let you
Right.
go. I'm gonna go eat my dinner.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And just remember, everyone, that we are not going to be having a program next weekend or the day after Christmas.